Hello, heathens, and welcome to Spinning the Wheel podcast with me, your contentious and opinionated host, Megan Angus. We have some stuff to get into this week. Surprise, surprise. So here we go. This is Yule season, waxing moon in Aries, lunar week 46 by some magical cycles. As we started off last week, we started off this week too with Free Palestine, Free Sudan, Free Congo, Free Haiti, No War with Venezuela, Release the fucking files, Land Back Now, Arm the Dolls, Chinga la Migra, and fuck fascism. Okay? We're just clearing the air every time. We're just doing a banishing ritual at the beginning of this audio ritual every time. Folks, year ahead readings are just about sold out. So if you were waiting for a sign, this is it. There are year ahead astro readings, year ahead tarot readings. The astro readings are clocking in at about 30 to 35 pages for the report, give or take. It's a little excessive. Surprise, I do too much. What's new? What's new there? No, absolutely nothing. We're going to do a reading online, or we're going to talk online, plus you've got your report, etc., etc. All the information, is on Patreon, and it's on my website. Descriptions of those readings are in the places where you would expect to find them. I'm so good at this whole marketing thing, aren't I? I've really got it dialed in. All right, what else is going on? Books are going to reopen for January bookings for patrons who get free readings every month soon. I thought I had figured that out, but I hadn't. So you'll get that soon. And we've got some classes coming up. So, as I mentioned last week, we have our next Wheel of the Year class for Imbolc. That's going to be January 29th. This will be a free live stream on YouTube, as they have been since spring of 2020, when COVID hit. This is my offering of support to all beings on planet Earth. And they are free thanks to the support of my wild and totally insane, beautiful, wonderful, and quite freaky patrons. So blame them. Speaking of those guys, if you're a patron, we got 2 classes coming up. Yes, we've got classes coming up. Let's go. Okay. January 3rd, Hecate's Supper Club. Hecate's Supper Club is back with a new purpose: to gather on Zoom and do some witchcraft on the full moons. This first club is going to be exploring the basics of energy work. I will have more information about that shortly. And then our other class is going to be January 14th. And this is the New Moon Tarot Circle. Tarot circles are also coming back. Hooray! I had so much fun doing tarot circles. They're not going to be the same. It's going to be different. At the New Moon Tarot Circles, we're going to get together on Zoom, for now, right? We're going to set intentions for the coming lunar cycles, utilizing materials from the Sabbath workbooks. We're going to hang out with some archetypes and hopefully get some guidance and some inspirations. Like I said, set our intentions, all of that good stuff. These classes are going to be available to different levels of folks on Patreon because the notice is so short this time around. All of these classes, the Hecate Supper Club and the New Moon Tarot Circle, are both going to be free to attend for anybody at the $5 and up level. That's the Mercury level. And I'm also going to put up the recordings of those classes, and any materials, if there are any materials for those classes, are also going to be available for everybody at the Mercury level, $5 and up, because it's short notice. In the coming months afterwards, whenever we do these classes again, they're going to be available at the Venus level and higher and the Sun level and higher. The new moon at the Venus level and higher, the full moon, Hecate's Supper Club, where we're actually going to do some magic on the full moons, that's going to be available at the Sun level and higher, and the recordings for all of that stuff available for folks at the Sun level and higher, and that's a whopping $23 a month for all of that goddamn witchcraft. Okay, that is the end of the shill. You can read more about that on Patreon. There's a post up right now that anybody can see. You can follow for free on Patreon if you want to get notices of when that stuff is happening. If I get a lot of feedback, I might sell tickets to individual classes, like the Hecate Supper Club. I don't know. I don't know. Let me know if that's something that interests you. Leave a comment below. But okay, that's enough of that. All right, let's get into all of this goddamn witchcraft that we got coming up. So let's ground into the various wheels and cycles of energies that we are working through at this time. We are still in the year of the snake. You might say we're at the very tail end of the snake. So, resonating in the background, we're still moving through transformation, we're still shedding skins, introspection and intuition are still here to help us. You know, working on balance and mindfulness and staying calm in the face of, hectic events or radical schedule changes. Year of the snake energy still in the background, kind of helping us find that calm and find that, curling up and nesting restorative energy before we move forward into the next big stuff. We are also, of course, in the season of winter. Winter is a season of death and rebirth, both, release, purification, and dreaming. And more specifically, we have officially moved into Yule season. And of course, in Yule season, we focus our witches' work on returning to source, death and rebirth, right? Wisdom specifically, and ancestors. We're working with the goddess as the embodiment of wisdom or the embodiment of enlightenment. We're witnessing the Holly King die off and the Oak King step forward. Again, a symbol of wisdom and tradition and old knowledge, tested knowledge. For folks in the Northern Hemisphere, we are witnessing, or we just witnessed, the sun die and be reborn. And a lot of pagan traditions do treat this time as the end of the old cycle and the start of the new one. As I've said in other places, you can get lots and lots and lots of information on Yule and winter practices, traditions, folklore, spells, tarot, ritual, on my website, on my YouTube channel, blah, 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 blah. And officially, with winter solstice, the sun has moved into Capricorn. And when the sun heads into Capricorn, our conscious sense of self and our sense of purpose can take on elements of being really focused on things like organization, practicality, and success. When we see celestial bodies traveling through Capricorn, those planets tend to take on a more pragmatic and responsible and ambitious attitude. We are also still within the Celtic tree month of Birch, the Achiever, sitting very nicely with that Capricorn energy. We talked a little bit about Birch last week as well. When a forested area burns, birch is the first tree to grow back. It's often called the pioneer tree or the protector. Again, this is sitting very nicely with our, ending an old cycle, beginning a new cycle. Capricorn is a cardinal sign. Those cardinal signs are all about initiating, birthing, opening, starting, being first, right? And so here is this plant symbol to help us with that work. Birch is often planted around other slower growing trees so that they are protected from the elements. Birch is known by some as Lady of the Woods, and birch trees hold really deep feminine connections, making it a symbol of rebirth and fertility. And of course, fertility is a word these days that has a lot of baggage. Goddess bless. We can be fertile in lots of ways. Doesn't have to be a flesh baby. It can be lots of different things. Birch's elegance in the woods is made known by its delicate, peeling, silvery white bark. And so, a lot of magicians and witches will use birch bark as magical parchment to keep writings safe. And if you find yourself in a place where you get an opportunity to harvest birch bark, please do so ethically, as we talk about here on the podcast. It's a 1 in 4 or a 1 in 5 rule, right? For every 5 that you see, you can take one. And I am not an expert on harvesting birch bark or peeling birch bark safely off of a tree, or finding it on the ground or whatever. So do a little research before you get involved in that stuff. All right. So those are the bigger wheels and the bigger cycles within cycles that we are traveling through. So we have a lot of emphasis on opening up and starting or being at the beginning of something, but there's also a sense of death and rebirth. There's also a sense of stillness, and there's also a sense of the world sort of like taking a moment and sort of getting itself reset and then moving forward. So, what do we have going on for our moon and our astrology and our holy days of this week? This week we are hanging out with a waxing half moon at 6 degrees of Aries. It will hit exactly at 11:09 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, December 27th, later in the day / the next day for everybody else around the planet. This is bringing focus to the Aries-Libra axis. And the big paradox of that spot in our chart is I versus we. Aries is very concerned with what do I need, what do I want, what makes me feel good, what do I think is important. And Libra is very focused on what do we want, what do we think is very important. The I is completely lost in Libra, and the we is completely lost in Aries. And so the work that we do on this axis is trying to find balance between what I need as an individual and what we need as a partnership. This moon is ruled by fiery and occasionally belligerent Mars, who is currently traveling through Capricorn, where it's exalted. And while there, Mars is conjunct the Sun, trine the South Node, and square to this moon. Speaking of, this waxing Aries moon is sitting at 6 degrees of Aries. It's hanging out with Neptune at 29 degrees of Pisces, and just behind there is Saturn at 25 degrees of Pisces. And this moon is squared by the Sun, which we will expect on every waxing or waning half moon. And it is also squared by Mars and Venus, and everybody's all hanging out like a big boy band in Capricorn. So, what are we doing with this? When we are hanging out with a waxing half in our process, in the midst of the lunar process, the waxing half moon is encouraging us to grow up and away from whatever we've been doing previously. It's built out of our conscious identity and purpose squaring off with our feelings and our intuition. The goal is utilizing this friction and adjustment to bring about change based on what we think is coming or where we want to grow. That's what we're doing with a waxing half. Now, this moon in Aries loves to argue. So, loves an argument. The waxing half moon in Aries is willing to get rough with it. And I can easily see this as the inevitable buildup and explosion of folks snapping after a season of trying to be patient, trying to be kind, holding their tongue, putting up with racist or ignorant coworkers, relatives, whatever, right? It also might literally be generated out of just sheer disappointment in people in general. Aries energy, when it's unhealthy, is impatient, self-centered, and more than happy to butt heads when things are out of balance. And we know that that's not the only expression of Aries energy, but this is a waxing half. We're talking about a lot of squares. This is a moon where we might want to engage the asshole in a situation just because they need to get knocked off of their high horse. But obviously, your mileage is going to vary on that endeavor, right? Does somebody need to be put in their place? Do you need to be the one doing the putting? Just know that your impulse might be to act from a place of confrontation rather than resolution. And I'm not telling you to do it or not do it because God knows I love to tell a motherfucker what's up. But it's not always my job to do that. It's not always my place to do that. And also, somebody else might take more joy in it than me. Now, what can make this tricky, beyond the inherent nature of it, what can make this tricky is that this moon is hanging out with Neptune at, again, 29 degrees of Pisces. It's squared by the Sun and Venus and Mars, who are all more or less conjunct in Capricorn. And on this same day, like not involved with the moon, but happening on the same day, we have Mercury trine Chiron retrograde. So there is like a real opportunity for the truth to come out and that to be really painful and that to lead to a potentially funky argument, like a potentially difficult conversation with some folks where some heat is coming to the surface, some bruised egos, some hurt feelings, etc., etc., right? That whole day, this whole day, December 27th, might get kicked off with somebody speaking their righteous pain and anger out into the world and people not being able to handle it. And then calamity ensues, right? Neptune, of course, brings the sad boy vibes, the delusional vibes. So we might not actually have the fire needed to take on a super spicy confrontation. We might also be wrong and be super fired up over something that's not accurate. And again, because of the Neptunian energy, we might, rather than directly confront something, even if we are wrong, we might go about it trying to be like super nitpicky and being like weirdly passive aggressive and like avoiding what is actually upsetting us. Also, when we have the funky Neptune energy involved, we know that we're not taking care of our body, we're not staying hydrated, and this is a lot of heat with Aries and Mars involved. Drink a glass of water, calm down. before you pop off, just drink a glass of water and see what you can do, okay? But we've got all of these squares, right? And they are absolutely adding to the frustration. That might look like disturbed sleep cycles, disturbed life cycles, or just the buildup of having your sleep cycles and your life cycles and your work cycles disturbed, and uprooted by previous recent events. Here in Washington, we've got lots and lots of folks whose work or home life or both, school life, all three potentially, are super disturbed because of the crazy floods that we've had all across our state. So, there's lots of reasons why stuff might be jumbled, and that has come to a head for you or the people around you, and you're just done. You're just fed up. That's what's up. But it can come out as like being hyper defensive or hyper critical of everything that's going on, even when there is actually a moment of goodness. So, just be aware, right? Be aware that you might be on your last string. The people around you might be on their last strings with reason. And also, right? Like, let's not destroy it. Let's not destroy each other. Like, so if spending time alone feels good, sacred journaling might be really powerful for this. When we're having difficult Mars transits, and like I said, this moon is squared by Mars, just sometimes doing something that helps you just sweat it out. But the example I always give is like moving a pile of bricks from one side of the yard to the other. It's like totally pointless. So you don't have to get it right, and it's just going to wear you out. You're going to sweat, you're going to be mad, you're going to, like probably knock your knuckle against something and like what is that? And it's going to run the dog out, as I like to say. It's going to tire you out. So maybe something like that. But with that Mercury Chiron thing happening in the background at the same time, like actually letting your pain come out and say your piece even if that's just journaling, right? That might be really, 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 really potent. But also, if you're like, nah, I don't want to, I just want to have things be nice, then I'm saying chilling with besties for a mellow movie night could actually be really cool. Keep it super low stress. Eat leftovers, order pizza. Like, don't make it that anybody has to do anything pivotal or make a hard decision. Just keep the vibes chill. Like, that might actually be pretty cool. When Venus is squaring the moon, it can actually be a really great time to just hang out and have a nice time and not have anything be too heavy or too serious or too potent. So, you got options, kid. You got options. The astro of this week does support this tension kind of running through the rest of the week. So it could be that this moon sort of like breaks something open and then we are resolving it the rest of the week. So I'm saying perhaps keep the pizza party with the besties on speed dial and like have that as a backup plan for like emergency. We have to watch a stupid movie and eat junk food. Hurry. Like I really need this. All right. When we are hanging out with our waxing half moon in Aries, we are adorning, activating, awakening, stimulating, and preparing for action the head, the scalp, the eyes, and the sinuses. These are all portions of the body ruled by Aries. As I say every single week, I am not a doctor of the human corpus, I am a doctor of the cosmos. Don't listen to me for trusted health advice. I don't know what I'm talking about. Go to your health practitioner person and be like, this crazy lady on a podcast told me that I need to check my sinuses. I don't know. Maybe, right? And as I said before, and we'll say again, you can always work with the metaphor. And, is there something you need to think about? Is there something on your eyes that's like blinding you to the thing? What's going on? All right. Okay, now let us get into the astrology that is going to carry us through the rest of this week and the incredible number of holy days that we have coming up. Okay, so our astrology for this week, beyond what we've just talked about with the moon itself, kicks off with Mercury trine Chiron retrograde. This is an opportunity or not a fun time. And it's an opportunity for not a fun time. So there you go. But the trine between Mercury and Chiron is here to help. Mercury is like, I want to talk about it, and Chiron is our sacred wound, right? Our earned wisdom, hopefully, that we have gained through gnarly stuff that we have experienced. That side note is a choice, by the way. There's a lot of people in this world that have had bad things happen to them, and they're just assholes, right? Like, nothing changed. They're even more cynical than they were before. They don't do anything with those experiences, and you don't have to. You're not obliged to do that. You're not obligated, okay? But when we have something bad happen in our lives, and we choose to try to make something out of that negative or harmful or terrible event, that's awesome. And again, it's a choice. So good on you when you engage that, because a lot of people don't. And, there's that. Just because people have gone through gnarly things in their life, my point being, it doesn't mean that they've developed anything out of that experience. But Mercury trine Chiron is bringing a spotlight to the places in us where we maybe have had those types of experiences that have resulted in us having a little wisdom or having, a deeper, gnarlier experience than our peers do. And Mercury here is like, I want to talk about it. I need to write about it. I need to communicate. I need to record. So something powerful may come forward on this day. And then through the rest of the week, we have two interesting things happening. We have Mercury squaring Saturn and then squaring Neptune. And then we have also in the sky Mars and then the sun and then Venus all sextiling the North Node. Now, taking into account the argumentative, maybe not super great waxing half moon in Aries situation, Mercury squaring Saturn and squaring Neptune definitely can lend energy to arguments. It can lend energy to arguments continuing over the days of the week, but also it's bummer jams. Mercury square to Saturn is really pessimistic. It's really funky for communication. Like, I don't want to talk, I don't want to listen kind of vibes. Or I only have bad news. Or you only ever have bad news for me. You only ever want to critique me. You only ever, it's a lot of that stuff, right? Now, I will say, asterisk, as an aside, if this week is dynamic for you but not funky, right? If you're like, yes, I'm living in this tension, it's awesome, I'm excited because I'm getting these dynamic conversations out of the way and we're getting stuff sorted and blah blah blah, then Mercury square Saturn, it can be a fantastic time to get solo mental work done. Like, if there's something on your to-do list that's like, that's really going to take some brain power to wrangle that thing, Mars square Saturn is really helpful for that. It's not helpful for all this other stuff. So, pessimism, funky comms, all of that stuff, not super great. And then, getting into the Mercury square Neptune, this can bring about confusion, delusion. It can almost feel like a Mercury retrograde at times. But another thing that can come through is secrets or gossip, like making some kind of trouble, or you finding out something through secrets or gossip that really hurts you, and like brings on depression, brings on the bummer vibes, that stuff. Okay. The other thing I would say about this day, again, because of that sort of Mercury retrograde vibe, there is triple check the fine print. Triple check the fine print before you commit to anything. Give it a day. Let this square pass. It won't be around for too long. Give it a day or two, and then go in. Okay. Now, beyond, like, if we can get past that stuff, then we also have this series of really cool sextiles to the North Node. And every one of them is about calling in our purpose. So, if you feel like you're really awash in the pessimism, right, then that's maybe not a great day to try to do that. But these sextiles happen all week long between the Sun, Mars, Venus, and the North Node. And so, you've got Venus's take on it one day, you got Mars's take on it another day, you got the Sun's take on it a different day. And again, all three of them are focused on calling in purpose in one way or another. The Sun is like, how do I identify with my purpose? Like, what is that? Mars also is asking that same question. How do I identify with this? How does this connect with my ego and like who I think I am in the world and what I'm trying to project? It's also a good day, again, if you're feeling up to the work, to consider your psychological motivations behind why you're doing what you're trying to do and like what you think destiny is calling you towards. When it comes to the day that Venus is sextiling the North Node, it's definitely a lot of vibes of like, how are my values and my destiny in alignment? Am I on that right now or not? So lots of opportunities throughout this week to kind of like check in on that. Last things that are happening in our astrology this week, we're going to get into the actual dates here in just a second. But I wanted to kind of give you this as the preamble. We also have Mercury moving into Capricorn and Chiron stationing direct at 22 degrees Aries. When anything moves into Capricorn, as I said before, when Mercury moves into Capricorn, our thinking, our communication styles, the way we teach, the way we learn, the way we acquire data and information, the sources that we turn to for that, all can take on a little bit more of a traditional vibe, practical, pragmatic, things that are oriented towards our responsibilities, that feel responsible in of themselves, that feel like practical, stable, that we could rely on them. They're reliable. That's all stuff there with Capricorn. But also in that mix, when Mercury steps into Capricorn, it's like, what am I doing? What are my achievements? What are my goals? What success am I hoping to get to this year? Let me talk about it. Let me advertise about it. Let me do stuff. So the whole time that Mercury's rolling through Capricorn, for some of us, it might be a great time to think about, well, the whole time it's moving through Capricorn, it's going to be a great time for all of us to consider, in the broad strokes, our blueprint for 2026. For some of us, depending on aspects that are happening, it might be a nice time to like get your message out into the world, do a little branding, a little advertising, bop, 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 that sort of gig-a-rama. Okay, so let us actually get into the days of this week. All right. December 27th, we have, again, our waxing half moon at 6 degrees of Aries. We have Mercury trine Chiron retrograde, which is encouraging our sacred journaling and listening for the painful but needed messages to come through. Also on this day, from our Catholic friends and ancestors, we have Saint John of Patmos's Day, which I have listed in my notes as the saintiest of saints. That's all I've written down. So do with that what you will. From our Sikh friends and ancestors, we have Barahimizong. This is observed on the 5th day of Mangar Purnima, aka December. This festival marks the coming together of the Mangar people to pay homage to their forefathers, or their ancestral deities, by performing various rituals and rites. From our Nigerian friends and ancestors, we have the Igwe festival. This is the biggest festival of the year. It is celebrated with lots of pomp and pageantry, somewhere usually between Christmas and New Year's, and this will include the Oba's blessing of the land and his people. This is meant to be sort of a ritual to purify and fortify the king and his kingdom for the coming new year. Also on this day, from our Norse friends and ancestors, we have the Feast of Freya with her badass cats pulling the chariot. I mean, come on, that's so rad. Yeah, what else can I say about Freya? So many things, but she's dope. Also on this day, from our Catholic friends and family, Catholic friends and ancestors, we have the Feast of the Holy Family. This feast celebrates the Holy Family, Jesus's earthly family, the divine Son of God. I don't know if you're familiar, but it's kind of a big deal for these guys. His birthday was recently, apparently. That's what they say. Anyways, okay. Moving on to December 28th. We have the heliacal rising of Caus Australis and Caus Borealis. These stars are found in Sagittarius, and they represent, actually we have, I think, Caus Medius or Medio something. They basically represent various stars that are found in the top, the middle, and the bottom of the bow of Sagittarius. These stars are also sometimes grouped into the going and returning ostriches that we've talked about previously. The top of the bow, Caus Borealis, possibly connected to Ishtar. That's found in a variety of sources. As we talked about previously, all of the stars in the bow of Sagittarius are concerned with our moral aims. So that's just humming in the background while we're working on stuff. This day, December 28th, we also step into the runic moon half week of Awaz, and we'll talk about that a little bit more towards the end of the podcast. And also on this day, from our modern pagan friends and ancestors, we have the static date for the Feast of Freya. December 29th, our moon moves into Taurus. We also have Mars sextile the North Node. And so here's the beginning of that all these passages of sextiling the North Node, calling in our purpose, considering our psychological motivations, and checking on how we identify with our goals. Of course, the North Node, is a type of hunger and a type of urge. It might indicate a yearning for something, it might indicate a calling, or it might indicate, a force in the universe that feels like it is pushing us or pulling us in a particular direction. But you have free will, so do as you will. Also, on this day, we have one of those Mercury squares. We have Mercury square Saturn. And as I said before, this is great for, work that needs super hardcore concentration, but only if it's solo. It's not going to be fun to work with other people, but, it's a day that you could be prepared for funky communications, pessimistic thinking, etc., etc. And from our Catholic friends and ancestors, we have Holy Innocents. My notes for this date simply say, Herod chops up boys looking for Christ. What is it with... What? That's supremely not cool, Herod. Rude, honestly, from way back in the day. Unnecessary. December 30th, we have our gibbous moon at 24 degrees of Taurus. Our gibbous moon in Taurus is calling our attention to how we create stability in our world and whether those methods are in balance with nature and the living systems around us or not. And like the plainest way to look at this is, looking at how we live in the West and how it is totally unsustainable. The urge here is to sort of think about, like, is there a way that you can take some time to look at your organizational systems, your resource systems, whatever in your life feels like it might fall into those categories, and see if there is a way to feed your various systems back into each other to provide you with a good quality of life that doesn't take away from the environment around you, but instead replenishes. And to me, like the very like straightforward, mundane interpretation of this would be like a composting system, right? Let's say you have an outdoor area where you get to grow stuff. You would harvest, you would take your plant clippings, you would take your food trimmings, blah, 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 right? You compost that stuff. It breaks down, it goes into the soil, becomes the soil. You grow your plants out of it, your plants feed you, you take the plant trimmings, you break them down into compost, put it back in the soil, you grow the pepper, right? That's a very like overt, mundane, straightforward, physical world interpretation of this. And it's a moon in Taurus. We don't have to go further than that. But can you? Can you think about the other systems in your world that you interact with or that you maintain in your life that take more than they give out of your systems, out of your environment? Just putting that out there. Just putting that out there. Is there a way that you can do that? That it provides you with a good quality of life and doesn't take from nature but replenishes. Okay. When we're hanging out with our gibbous moon in Taurus, for our lunar body work, we are awakening, activating, adorning, stimulating, and preparing for action. The ears, the mouth, the teeth, the throat, the neck, and the shoulders. These are all ruled by Taurus. And for our plant body work during the gibbous moon in Taurus, we are, which I don't even, did I say the plant body work for Aries? I don't think I did. I think I just raced directly past that. Now that I'm like, wait, what? What happened? Well, maybe it's the same. Is it the same? I don't know. If you're hearing this now, I didn't go back and replace that. And now I've lost it in my notes. Okay, here we go. Plant roots. This is for Taurus. Plant roots. Transplant, graft plant annuals that yield above ground, especially the viney crops. Peas, beans, melons, squash, tomatoes, peppers, cereals, grains, hay, garlic, cucumbers. This is also a great time for taking cuttings, doing graftings, and harvesting anything off of your winter crops above ground that you intend to dry and store. I'm actually going to go back right now because it's bothering me that I didn't do that. So, listen, I am a professional, okay? And I don't want to hear it from you. So, you put your judging eyes away. Thank you. Here is the plant body work for Aries. We're taking cuttings, we're grafting, and we're harvesting above ground for drying and storage. That's hilarious. It's almost the same stuff. Okay, other things that we're doing: cultivating, harvesting for drying, more pest control and disease control, which, we're going to get a lot of that through this run of the year. Plowing, weeding, pruning. So yes, if you didn't aerate your soil last week, this is another good week to do it. If this applies to you, cutting firewood, and to promote above ground growth, planting annuals, your winter annuals that yield above ground, especially all your viney crops. So yes, nearly everything that we said before. Taking your cuttings, your graftings, and harvesting above ground for drying and storage. Okay, there we go. Let us get back into what the hell I was saying before. All right. So, back to December 30th with our gibbous moon in Taurus. We talked about the lunar work. We talked about the plant work, body work. Good. Okay. The two other things that are happening on this day, December 30th, we have the heliacal rising of the fixed star Facies. Facies. This is also found in Sagittarius. This is actually a bright nebula that is directly in front of the face of the archer. You heard me earlier in the podcast talking about something being in your face and blinding you, right? Well, here we are. This star nebula moment in this constellation can represent a force so bright that it blinds us, right? Like staring into the sun or staring into the face of God. It can be like staring into a black hole. It can really freak us out. It can be one of those moments that's like, and the archer can pop off in this moment. Given the astrology of this week, we want to be extra careful around this day, I think, for getting triggered and getting surprised, shocked, offended, freaked out, weirded out by something, and we just start popping off. We just start shooting arrows everywhere. We're just like, pew, 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 get away from me. Or I'm freaking out. I'm super defensive. I'm hyper freaked. So just be aware. Just know that December 30th might be one of those days. All right. And for our Nepalese friends and ancestors, we have Temu Lusar, which is their New Year's. And that brings us to December 31st, which is New Year's for lots of folks who work with the Gregorian, Julian, whatever this thing is, whatever this current calendar is, they work with that. On December 31st, the moon moves into Gemini, and what we see on this day, running from December 31st through January 4th, for our Zoroastrian friends and ancestors, we have Vohu Mana. This is the Avestan language term for a Zoroastrian concept generally translated as good purpose or good mind or good thought. I'm sure it's just a coincidence that the moon is moving into Gemini on the same day. But this is in reference to the good state of mind that enables an individual to accomplish their duties. And I love that this holiday is here in the midst of this week where we are simultaneously having these squares, right? That are like, stay pessimistic and stay delusional about stuff. But then we're also having all of these sextiles that's like, what is my destiny? Am I actually like in alignment with the stuff I say that I'm trying to do and trying to be and trying to, achieve in my life? Like, am I doing that? We have an opportunity to really get in touch with our pain. And we have an opportunity to get our mind like really focused on like, what are my long-term goals? What's my big plan? And so here we have this really cool festival on December 31st. That's like, get your head right. Get your mental squared away. Like, what are you doing, kid? Let's do this. And it's specifically about that, right? It's not like it's a It's not like it's a corrective thing. They're saying having your mind in the right place enables you to accomplish your goals. It enables you to do this. And this is, I've talked about this in other classes and other podcasts, but to me, this is part of the inherent luck that people will attribute to the planet Jupiter or the sign Sagittarius, that they are somehow more lucky than a lot of the other signs. And I don't know that that's necessarily true, but what I will say is that folks that have powerful Jupiter placements, or folks that have a lot of stuff, not everything, not all things, but a lot of things hanging out in Sagittarius, tend to have a why not, let's try attitude about a lot of things. They often have a who knows, let's see how it turns out sort of an attitude, because for a lot of those folks, again, people that have a lot of spicy Jupiter placements or Sagittarius placements, it's about learning for them. It's about gaining knowledge and gaining experience. So there is no, technically there's no bad times, right? Technically there's no bad vibes. There's no like disappointments. There's no failed adventures or failed experiments, because everything is going to produce experience and wisdom and knowledge about a thing. It's all going to produce data. And that's always useful. So no matter what, it's going to be helpful to some extent. That, I think, is the nature of this luckiness that comes through with that. It's that ability to keep your mind open and keep your mind dialed into staying positive, staying optimistic, staying open-minded about what things might be and how it could turn out. Yes, that can lead into some foolhardy stuff, but it doesn't have to. Okay, so technically that has nothing to do with Zoroastrianism or this festival at all, but enjoy it. Hey, look, it's a tangent. It's a good old-fashioned tangent. We haven't done one of those in a long time. Oh my God, nature's healing, you guys. All right, what else do we have happening here? Around the planet, lots of different places that go by this calendar that we mess with here in the United States. It is New Year's Eve, January 1st, of course, New Year's Day. Here in the United States, from our African American and Black friends and ancestors, we have Watch Night, which is also called Freedom's Eve. This is a predominantly Christian religious service held on New Year's Eve and associated in many African American churches with a celebration and a remembrance of the Emancipation Proclamation, which was enacted January 1st, 1863, which freed slaves in the Confederate States during the American Civil War. Many mainline Protestant churches in the U.S. sponsor a Watch Night service on New Year's Eve. Just, another stain on our fucking history in our country, and no big deal, but a beautiful festival. Also on this day, from our Yoruba friends and ancestors, we see feasts dedicated to Aroni, Osayin, and Yemoya. And this certainly isn't the biggest festival for Yemoya, but she is absolutely celebrated. These deities are celebrated here at the very end of the old cycle. From our Creole friends and ancestors, we have Réveillon. All apologies if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. Please bring me down there and teach me how to say it. But Réveillon reaches all the way back to early 19th century New Orleans Creole families, where they would go to midnight mass on Christmas Eve night, Christmas morning, whatever. But having fasted for the previous 24 hours, they would be atoned but hangry and return home to a lavish middle of the night feast called Réveillon. So, when you wake up at 3 a.m, and you're, drunk still probably, or blasted on whatever it is the kids are into these days. Ativan? I don't know what you're doing. Ketamine? You guys are into wacky shit these days. No-dos? Did they bring those back yet? Ugh. No, thank you. No-dos? No, thank you. The 3 a.m. feast in the middle of the kitchen, it's a holy act, turns out. From our Gnostic friends and ancestors, we have the Feast of Father Time. Father Time is a personification of time. He is usually depicted as an elderly bearded man, sometimes with wings, dressed in a robe and carrying a scythe and an hourglass or other timekeeping device, which generally represents time's constant one-way movement and entropy. Now, as an image, Father Time's origins are pretty interesting, right? This old dude with a sickle or a scythe, an hourglass, etc. The ancient Greeks began to associate Chronos, that's Chronos, their word for time, with the agricultural god Kronos, Cronos, who had the attribute of a harvester's sickle. The Romans equated Kronos with Saturn, who also had a sickle. And he was treated like an old man. We lovingly refer to him as Angry Saturn, or Angry Grandpa here on the podcast. He's often also depicted with a crutch. He may even have as an attribute a snake with a tail in its mouth. If anybody's familiar with that Ouroboros symbol. So a figure who represents time, the passage of time and entropy, but that sickle thing, and that sickle imagery with Saturn is something that we talk about in Mabon season, so you're gonna have to wait. we're not gonna talk about it right now. You're gonna have to wait, come back around 9 months from now. 9 months. Huh. Trippy. Weird. Probably just a coincidence, I'm sure. But that Ouroboros symbol is also a very cool metaphor for, again, the start and stop and start again of a round cycle, a wheel, right? The Ouroboros is eternal, but it has a head and a tail. So there is, even in that symbol of eternity and infinity, the suggestion of a hinge point or a marker of some kind. Trippy stuff. Okay. Last festival for this day from our Japanese friends and ancestors, we have Omisoka. This is a Japanese traditional celebration on the last day of the year. Traditionally important activities for the concluding year and day were completed in order to start the new year fresh. And some of those activities might include house cleaning or repaying debts, or purification rituals like driving evil spirits out, doing your banishings and your protection spells and things like that. And bathing in the final hours of the day so that the end of the year could be spent relaxing. Obviously friends, family, parties, visiting temples, etc., etc. But I love that tradition, or those traditions of like closing out the energy before you kick off the new thing. Of course, there are also lots and lots of traditions from all over the planet about cooking particular foods on the last day of the year or the first day of the year, and eating those foods on the last day of the year or the first day of the year. Of course, if you're in America, you are probably most familiar with eating black-eyed peas on New Year's Eve. That's such a big deal. But there's a ton of different traditions out there on, eating something right before at midnight or right after, or making it the day before and eating the next day or not. Blah, 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 blah. So look into that stuff. Basically, what you're doing is either closing off the energy in one cycle and blessing and starting new the energy of the next cycle, or sometimes if you're getting the food on one day and eating it the next day, you're making sure to carry over a little bit of the energy from the old cycle into the new one. So different traditions will do it different ways. Like I said, there's a ton of different foods for this. If you look at stuff from all over the planet, get into it. I highly recommend it. All right. That brings us to December 1st. January. January 1st. Oh my God. If we make it here, we've made it through one of the most difficult years on planet Earth, 2025. See ya. Get the fuck out. Respectfully. All right. January 1st, 2026. First thing, bam, Mercury enters Capricorn. Mercury in Capricorn means our thinking, our communication, our data sources, and our knowledge bases have to pass the sniff test when it comes to responsibility, pragmatism, stability, and longevity, as well as reputations and legacies. So, I think this is a great season to start demanding quality control from news sources and really all media. Clear out the machine learning slop. We need to start demanding that they can guarantee we are seeing real media involving real humans. I'm just going to go on record as saying that. How about that? That's all. Can news stations, can media sources guarantee that what we are seeing is real? And how? How are they going to guarantee it? Put the onus on them. Force them to do it. All of a sudden, it's going to get real, real important. So, also on this day, we have another one of those cool sextiles. We have the Sun sextile North Node, calling in purpose, considering our motivations, breaking old patterns, and also on this day, we have Mercury squaring Neptune. And that is likely to bring in confusion, delusion, secrets or gossip, stirring up some trouble or some drama. And as I said previously, check the fine print. It's a very easy day to be like caught up in something and not notice that something is going on. All right. Also on this day, running from January 1st through the 5th, we have the quadrantids meteor showers. The quadrantids are usually active between the end of December and the second week of January. They peak around the 3rd or 4th of January. Unlike other meteor showers that tend to stay at their peak for about 2 days, the peak of the quadrantids lasts like a few hours. So get into it. However, it's right near the full moon, so I don't know how well we'll be able to actually see the your mileage may vary. Your mileage may vary. All right, holy days for January 1st, other than it being New Year's Day globally for lots of people, but obviously not everybody. We have from our Santeria friends and ancestors the feast of Elegua. Elegua is sometimes represented as a child, sometimes represented as an old man in that past, present, and future, crossroads of the past and the future. You know. He represents the beginning and the end of life, and the opening and the closing of paths in life. Sometimes he's known as the trickster. He likes to play jokes on people. He likes candy and toys. And despite his childlike nature, he is actually a very powerful Orisha. He is one of the warriors, and he is always mentioned first in any ceremony because without his permission, the doors to communication with the other Orishas stay closed. So, of course, his ritual is right here at the very beginning of the new year. Also found here on January 1st, running from January 1st through 6th, for our Slavic friends and ancestors, we have the Days of Wolves. This festival is connected to the god Dazbog. The Days of Wolves are celebrated in sort of observance of the souls of the ancestors or the souls of the dead briefly coming to visit in the form of wolves. During this period, wolves are praised up to the point that even potentially sacrifices are made to them. Side note to the side note, we have talked about sacrifices here on the podcast and in various classes over the years. One, I'm not trying to tell you how to do shit. Two, always think for yourself. Three, my personal take on sacrifices is that they, in a way, are not necessary because I am the universe is me. And so what am I doing when I'm sacrificing something? I'm taking something from myself and giving it to myself. Why? Why even bother? Why even bother? But that's borderline offensive in other people's traditions. So, I'm also going to be quiet, right? Like, I'm not trying to tell you how to do your shit. But what can be sacrificed, right? What is a sacrifice? Is it an offering? What can be offered, right? There's lots of ways to interact with the idea of sacrificing something because we can sacrifice time, we can sacrifice energy, we can sacrifice effort, lots of stuff. So that's what's up. Um, Also on this day, running from January 1st through the 6th, from our Shinto friends and ancestors, we have Oshogatsu, which celebrates the first day of the year. It's really the first week of the year. And Shinto priests get into like purification ceremonies. They pass out cards wishing good luck to folks in the new year. You eat, this is another one of those where you eat a very particular food. You eat toshisoshi soba noodles, visit shrines, drink amazake. Like, it's a whole thing, right? Eat noodles, get drunk. It's New Year's Day. Let's go. Okay. Also, on this day, from our modern pagan friends and ancestors, the various Wheel of the Year calendars that are out there, God bless them, we have Hag's Day. And this is honoring the goddess as she who transforms. Hag's Day is a modern static holiday that hits right here at the beginning of the year, heart of Yule season, right, here in the middle of winter, representing all of the various goddesses that are crones, that are transition goddesses, wisdom goddesses, Kalech, and on and on and on. All of them here. Okay. Also, from our modern pagan calendars, we have a day for Ishtar. Interesting because we do have that fixed star nearby, and so here is a fixed date on a calendar for doing worship at this time of year. From our Catholic friends and ancestors, we have the Solemnity of Mary. And here, this is one of the stations of Mary in the 12 days of Christmas. Now, side note to the side note, I'm occasionally on social media. I'm not on there as much as everybody is, but I'm around. And I will tell you, a very interesting phenomenon occurred this year as I was watching, through the various feeds of pagan and witchy social media feeds, right? I saw one creator talk about doing a spell that would go over the 12 days of Christmas or the 12 stations of the goddess or the 12, whatever. But it's the 12 days of Christmas, and you make some wishes on paper. I don't know. You probably have seen it too because it was everywhere. And so the first time that I saw this iteration of this spell of doing something with 12 parts and making 12 wishes and having a piece of paper and all of the stuff, it was a small creator and it was one version of this ritual. And then the next time I saw it, it was a larger creator with a slightly altered version of the ritual. And then 2 days later, an even bigger creator with a slightly altered. And by the end of the week, it was the huge, big accounts that are, witch.com, whatever. And they had this whole thing spelled out. And what was hilarious was none of them were mentioning the actual 12 days of Christmas thing. None of them were talking about 12th night. None of them were talking about Modres Nacht, which is happening during this time, the pagan 12 stations of the goddess that occur now. It was not none of them, but like it was definitely not core to and it was very interesting to see this idea evolve that fast and every one of them be claiming that they had come up with it and it's like, so we've talked about this phenomenon of like social media and witchcraft, or like seeing things in media, seeing things in film, seeing things in television, and duplicating it in your own magical practice. And my attitude about it very much is, if it works, do it. But also, isn't it wild how like an idea gets out there and everybody instantly gloms on it and freaks out about it and it's like, I have to capitalize on this, literally capitalize, right? I have to sell this, I have to spin it, I have to rebrand it into my own thing, and then I have to sell it. Like, God forbid any of those witches just didn't do it for the gram. I know I'm probably making a lot of friends right now. Whoever's listening to this is like, she's talking about my account, god damn it. Well, welcome to Megan Angus. I burn more bridges than I build. It's Aries. It's waxing half an Aries, bitch. I'm here to argue. What? But I'm saying, like, it's an interesting phenomenon out there in social media when it comes to witchcraft and stuff. If you saw that spell and it looked intriguing to you, try it. Report back to the group. Tell us what happened. It's probably cool. It probably works. especially with that many people putting energy into it. I mean, yikes. But also, what a trippy phenomenon of watching us, just from an objective standpoint, watching a spell develop in real time. Tell me again that spells are not living entities in and of themselves. Spells are memes. That's all I'm going to say on that. I'm not taking questions at this time. But, I'm just saying, like, that was really, really trippy to watch this idea as a living entity literally leap from person to person within hours, within days. Very, very trippy. Very, very cool. Okay, back to this. The Solemnity of Mary is one of the most important days within the 12 days that celebrate Mary, the 12 days of Christmas. We're hanging out with St. Stephen. We're hanging out with St. John the Apostle. We're hanging out with King Herod, the baby chopper. We're hanging out with the Holy Family. But the biggest deal is January 1st, the Solemnity of Mary, the celebration of the Mother of God. Oh, right, her. Oh, yeah, everybody's all hyped on this Jesus kid. Where did he come from? That lady. Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay. Also on this day, from our Yoruba friends and ancestors, we have the Feast of Oduduwa, who is the creator of Earth, no big deal. From our Orthodox Catholic friends and ancestors, we have the feast day of Saint Basil, who I also listed in my notes as extra sainty. And then last but not least, January 1st, from our Bali friends and family, we have, our Bali friends and ancestors, we have Siwaratri, which is often referred to as the Night of Siwa. Who's Siwa? That's Shiva. And this is an auspicious time for introspection, meditation, prayer, asking for forgiveness, asking for support and strength in the new year, offerings to Shiva. There's rituals. Folks will fast. They'll stay awake all night. And so for them, this is also known as the longest night or the long night, which is a cool, interesting synchronism. And it is usually also celebrated it can also be celebrated during the new moon, specifically. So sometimes it's very dedicated to the day and sometimes it's very much on the moon. All right. Moving to the last day of this lunar week, January 2nd, we see Chiron stationed direct at 22 degrees of Aries. Now, this might be a big day of release, especially if you have any planets at or nearby 22 degrees of Aries or Cancer or Libra or Capricorn. This might be a day when some righteous anger is released and, some real wounds are revealed in the effort to express our authentic self. Aries is very much about who really am I in this world and what do I need to be my most authentic, full self. And so anytime the Chiron pushing through Aries has been several years of lots and lots of wisdom gaining experiences for folks around their identity and how they express their identity in the universe. I don't know if that's going on for anybody out there. I don't know if any trans people can relate to any of that. I don't know. Just witchcraft. It's all a bunch of hooey. Okay. Also on this day, running from January 1st to the 3rd, or from January 2nd to the 3rd, we have from our pagan friends and ancestors the Feast of Hecate. This is the static date, or one of the static dates that's locked in on a lot of modern pagan calendars. Hecate, of course, most often shown holding a pair of torches, a key, snakes, accompanied by dogs. She's often depicted in a triple form. She's associated with crossroads, entranceways, night, light, magic, liminal spaces, witchcraft, of course, and a deep knowledge of herbs and poisonous plants, ghosts, necromancy, and sorcery, which is why we are hosting our very first Hecate Supper Club on January 3rd. It's almost like it was, no, I'm sure it's just a coincidence. And last but not least, on this day, January 2nd, from our Haitian friends and ancestors, we have Heroes Day and Ancestors Day. January 1st, 1804, Haiti became an independent republic following the revolution, which began 13 years previous as a rebellion of enslaved people against slavery and French colonialism. This was the most profitable colony in the world, generating greater revenue than all of the continental North America at the time. And so this 1804 Declaration of Independence abolished this colony of Saint Domingue and reinstated the indigenous Taino name of Haiti. So there, on January 2nd, the ancestors who fought those battles are honored, as is the entirety of the spirit of Haiti. And that brings us to the end of our holy days and our astrology and all of that good stuff for this week. So now, to wrap up, let's get into our witches' tools that are going to help us through this work. So what tools do we have to work with as we wrangle all of this energy that's coming through this week? There was a lot, right? There's a lot of stuff going on. Well, one of the tools that we have is the rune Awaz. The runic half moon week or weeks run from December 28th through January 12th. Awaz is also called Yule, and it connects us to the yew tree. It connects us to the ideas of death, and it connects us to states of being like shamanism. I don't want to say too much about this. I want to just kind of give you that and leave it with you, but I am going to say too much, right? Think about how last week we talked about Sagittarius and we talked about the yew tree being the source of poison or toxin that often was used on arrows, and how toxiusis means archer in Greek, etc., right? So there's a connection here with this rune and its definition somehow stretching between Sagittarius and Capricorn energy, maybe, right? The astrology stuff is a me thing. When I'm connecting astrology to runes, that's mostly a me thing. Not to say that other people don't do it or haven't done it, just that's me kind of riffing. But I'm thinking about the stars of Sagittarius last week that pass us through, the poison that's at the tip of the tail of Scorpio, and death and shamanism, being these places of very liminal transformation, initiation, threshold, changing from this to that, right? Old year across the threshold into the new year. Death across the threshold into life, into rebirth. I don't know. I'm having my own thoughts, and I kind of don't want to say more because I want you to have your own process with that stuff. So Awaz or Io, the yew tree, death, shamanism. Okay. Another thing that we are working with at this time are tarot cards. And we can work with the Devil card and the World card during this week. We also could probably pull up some of the Wands stuff if we wanted to work with the Aries energy specifically. You could pull up the Emperor card to work with Aries energy specifically. But, and we're going to talk about the Devil and the World card next week with our full moon. But they're here for assistance. They're here. They're standing by to take your call. The Devil card is a really important conversation, and I have some writing up on my website about the Devil card. I think you can literally just search the Devil card on my website and it'll pull up some writing. And in the Devil card, we encounter a winged figure. We encounter a character who has wings. Hey, wait, that's almost like Father Time. Wait a minute. That's probably just a coincidence, right? I'm sure it's just a coincidence. Huh. But we encounter a winged figure, and this winged figure is somebody that we see in the Major Arcana 4 different times. It'd be crazy if it was all the same character in different costumes. Surely that's not what's going on. And the Devil is an entity or an archetype of power. And the conversation that's happening in the card is, are you willing to accept the responsibility that comes along with accepting the power. And a lot of times when you say it like that, people go, no, I would rather not have power and blame someone else when things go wrong. Actually, that works out better for me. Thank you for asking. And so the devil is like, yeah, bet, no problem. I can totally hook you up with that. I can give you no power, no agency, and take away all your responsibility, and you could just be resentful and weird about it for the rest of your life. Passive aggressive, super weird. That'd be fun. Or not, right? The devil's like, you don't have to do it that way, though. You also can take responsibility for however this might turn out, good or bad, and then accept the agency and the ramifications and all of the stuff. At its root, the devil card is about creating forms, structures, architecture, containers, boundaries that we will pour our life into. And so, in a very pragmatic way, working with the devil card often looks like going to bed on time, getting your chores done, balancing your checkbook, all of that really boring, mundane adult bullshit. Because when we create those forms and we create those containers, our life, it's more orderly, sure, but our life is achievable at that point, right? And achieving, the achiever, right? Achievement, these are words that we're already having reinforced for us during this season with the Celtic birch tree, with Capricorn. The devil is like, sure, be mad at me today, but be thankful for me tomorrow when I whoop your ass and get you into shape to follow this routine and look at all of the benefits that come from following this form or pouring yourself into this container or minding this boundary. That's what the devil card is trying to bring us. And the devil card connects deeply with Capricorn energy specifically. The other card I was talking about is the world card. Why? Because the world is connected to Saturn, and Saturn is the ruling planet of Capricorn. And so lots of folks will also work with the world card during Capricorn season. I think it's really cool to put the wheel of fortune, which is connected to Jupiter, right next to the world card and look at all of the similarities and look at all the differences and look at all the similarities and look at all the differences. Jupiter being the ruling planet of Sagittarius and Saturn being the ruling planet of Capricorn means that these two planets sitting next to each other literally look like Sagittarius and Capricorn sitting next to each other at the hinge of the wheel. I'm sure it's just a coincidence. But, trip out on that, dog. But the world card, is really great for pondering at this time and thinking about the cycles, thinking about the big systems that you reside within, and on the grandest of scales, no pressure, but what are you doing with that life that you got there? What are you doing with that? You just like poking at it with a stick, or are you gonna like do something like trippy or dope or weird or freaky with it? That's what the world card is asking. The world card is literally the meme of the guy with a stick poking something, going, do something, but it's you poking yourself with your own life. But the world card also has pulled back and is looking at the biggest piece, right? It's looking at the universe in total, the totality of self. It's looking at the whole thing and being like, well, yeah, all right, let's do this again and again and again and again and again. Oh, wait, I've always been doing this. I'm always doing this. I'm this. That's what's up. All right. Thanks for sticking with me over the course of this episode and throughout the years. Man, I truly don't know why you're still here. This is just absolute madness. What an honor. What an incredible thing to be able to yap my foolishness into the world, and people are here for it. It is an honor that I do not take lightly, and it is a responsibility that I do not take lightly. And I think that that's obvious. I hope it is. Well, whatever. I don't care if it is or isn't. But that you trust me, that you listen, that you ponder the orb with me, that you consider these ideas and how they might reflect things that you're experiencing in your own life really is very, very special. And so, just in of that, I want to say thank you so much for listening and watching and reading over the many years that I have been doing this, whatever this is, and the many to come, because I'm not going anywhere. You're not getting rid of me that easy. So thank you for just hanging out. Thank you for being here for that. And thank you for all of the ways that you have supported this work over the many years, whether that was, through literal financial support, buying my readings, subbing to my Patreon, sending me a tip every now and then. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. But every time that somebody has shared something on social media, or every time somebody has played the podcast at work and all of their coworkers are listening, and or they've played a podcast on a car ride with a loved one or whatever, like every time it blows my mind that I am invited into your intimate spaces, and that you trust me with your people, that my message is something that feels right and good to share with others. It's really an honor. So I don't take it lightly. I don't take it lightly that I have this microphone, and I'm going to use it. Okay, before I forget, we've got classes coming up January 3rd, January 14th, January 29th. All the information is on Patreon for free right now. It's a post that's free. Anybody can see it. I will put dates up on my website as well. Stuff will get sent out in the newsletter as well. Stuff is happening. You might want to join Patreon. I'm just saying. You might want to... Just saying. Okay. And year ahead readings are just about sold out. You can find what's left on my website. Regular books will reopen in a minute. Soonish, but not soonish. So if you need a reading, what up. All right. All right, that's it. Love you. Blessed be.